Afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us for this webinar. I'm going to take you through a process of building the scorecards. And if you've got any questions, I think there's a facility for you to be able to ask your questions. And I will take it that you'll be able to use that facility to ask your questions. You can also send me a chat message so that you can I can answer your questions. Okay. The balance scorecard is one of the most popular methods of assessing performance that is currently used by a number of organizations in the scorecard in the country. And if you've got any questions, I think there's a facility for you to be able to ask your questions. What we are going to be doing is, I'm sure you've received a workbook that we have sent to you. And that workbook will be able to take you through the process of building the scorecard, and I'll take you through the workbook myself. Okay. Before I talk about the balance scorecard, I want also to talk about how to build high performance culture within an organization. And in order to do that, I will talk about quite a number of issues that are common in many organizations as they try to address the issues of performance. The first one is that most organizations, when they look at their performance, the failure in the organization is attributable to internal factors rather than external factors. But I know on the ground, when you go into organizations, they always blame the environment. I think there's a lot that can be done internally by fixing things that are people already know that do not require a lot of money in order for the company to be able to succeed. So as a way forward, my first thing to advise you is that you must always look at yourself as an organization and say, look, what are the things that we can do internally in order to improve the performance of the business without constantly be blaming the environment. So that's factor number one if you want to build the performance culture in your organization. Factor number two is that you must remember that in every crisis, there are winners and losers. And from my own experience, that you can choose which side you want to belong to. And if you choose the side of winning, you will focus on the positive side and try to make sure that the organization succeeds. If you choose the side of losing, you are likely to be negative, and that affects the whole your employees as well. So it's important to be able to make that decision. There is no performance management system that will work in as an environment where management styles are not properly designed, or where management systems are not properly designed. It really boils down to the issue of management. There's no good performance management system that will work in a system where there's no leadership, where there's no good management. So it's an important part. When we say good leadership, we are also focusing on issues to do with mentorship. Are your managers treating your subordinates in a way that promote a relationship of mentorship between the manager and the subordinate, where the manager is a coach and the employee is coached in such a way that their performance can increase. If this situation does not exist, you might actually find that there's a challenge in terms of managing performance. This is a situation where you find a lot of complaints being raised by employees in relation to how they're being managed, a lot of complaints being raised in terms of how the targets are being set by the management. If the spirit of managing performance in your organization is not mentorship driven, in a way that promotes, again, your managers must be the resource gatherers. They must look for the resources so that the supporters can perform. And I know a lot of people are blaming resources unavailability. Yes, it's fair to do that, but I also think that the managers themselves must be offer themselves as people who are going to be gathering the resources that are needed for employees to be able to do their jobs. Without this issue being addressed, you always find employees complaining that they cannot deliver simply because there are no resources. And we're looking at our economic situation. We also note that the resources are not available, and the resources will continue to be in short supply because of the current economic challenges. Even in an economy where it's booming, you will still find that resources are not found in abundance in all spheres of the business. So in such a case, the managers need to be able to look for the resources. Managers can also act as target adjusters, the people who are going to be adjusting the targets in your business. Okay, they must be able to adjust the targets so that at least when these targets are adjusted, we must be able to make sure that the targets lead to the success of the organization. There is no point in setting targets that are not achievable in your business, because those targets will make sure that employees are demotivated from day one. So in such a case, one thing that can be done in order to address this issue is to engage your subordinates. I'm sure you know that no engagement or no involvement, no commitment. In such a case, where you don't involve your employees in setting the targets, you always find that the acceptance of the system becomes very difficult. So involve your employees in setting and adjusting the target. The situation is very volatile. The situation is changing. So in order for you to be able to make sure that your subordinates are committed from day one when you agree on the targets, let's make sure that we agree with the subordinates, or even get their views in terms of what kind of targets are achievable. But also be careful that some of the subordinates can also try to make sure that they give you very low targets in order to make sure that they achieve performance, even if there's no value that has been added to the business. And managers must also be obstacle removers and pave the way for others. And this is so crucial. And I know, talking to some of the employees, they always say, okay, the biggest obstacle in this organization is management. So in order for you to be able to address this issue, you must make sure that the managers in your business are there to remove the obstacles, not to be the obstacles themselves. And when they are obstacles themselves, it means it becomes very difficult to implement any performance management system. The other challenge is that a lot of organizations talk about performance management. They talk about performance, but I'm sure you and I agree that in actual fact, on the ground, nothing is happening in terms of performance. Yes, besides the noise that is made towards the annual appraisals, a lot of organizations, as we speak, have got no credible performance management to talk about. If it's there, it's redundant. If it's there, probably it's there on paper and it's never been used. And without properly implementing this system, or your performance management in the system. Here we're not talking only about the balance scorecard. There's so many other performance management systems. Regardless of what type you choose, if you don't build the right performance culture or the right environment in your business, chances of that system failing is very high. And we've seen that in our consulting experience, that companies can claim to have performance management system, but on the ground there's nothing happening. One of the key drivers of any performance management system is that you must be able to hold people accountable for the results. Okay, what we mean here is that what happens to people if they perform, what happens if they don't perform. If you find that the answer is no, nothing in both cases, it means there's no way you can implement a credible performance management system. In actual fact, in some instances, you actually find that your non-performers are the people who get paid better than your good performers, and naturally they decrease their input into whatever they're doing. So you get really the bare minimum, so that you get just that people give their bare minimum so that they don't get fired. The other issue that I also wanted to highlight that can actually help you in building a credible performance management system is to incorporate evidence-based management in your performance management system. Here we are really talking about being committed to facts-based kind of system or evidence-based management. When we do assessments, are they based on facts or they're based on someone's opinion? And if it's based on someone's opinion, chances are you are likely to make errors, you are likely to disfranchise your employees, you're likely to demotivate your employees because there's no evidence. So in order for you to be able to have a credible performance management system, you must be able to make sure that you've got evidence for everything that you're going to assess on an employee. You have the evidence to support your assessment. That's the best way to do it. Imagine if doctors were to base everything on their opinion without evidence, I'm sure there would be many more deaths in hospitals because it's a high-risk area. But I am surprised that business people don't take their business as a high-risk areas where you cannot just make a decision without evidence. So it's a key component. You can read more about EBM or evidence-based management on your own, but there's a lot of information. It's a new trend that is coming in now, but I think it's the backbone of any credible performance management system. In collecting this evidence, be very careful of what people call best practice. Best practice in one organization could actually be very bad practice in your organization, so be wary of benchmarking. While it's good to benchmark, but you must also make your own customizations to fit your own situation as you collect the evidence. Now let's talk about the balance scorecard. The balance scorecard was developed by David Norton and Kaplan. This system is one of the simplest systems that I have ever encountered or used because it's very easy to understand. What they're saying, what these two guys were saying is that traditionally organizations have tended to look at their performance in terms of financial performance. If you look at financial scandals that are happening all over the world, even before the advent of the balance scorecard, you can actually see that financial performance of the business can actually be faked. Okay, the financial performance of the business can be doctored. In finance department, we have a lot of financial engineers who can engineer anything. So you can't rely on the financial side of the business only without looking at the key aspects of the business. So you'll have financial, you'll have your customer, or some people prefer to call stakeholders, depending on the type of business. Because in a balance scorecard, in a profit-making organization, you'll have a completely different structure in a non-profit-making organization. So after customer, you go to your internal business processes. Internal business process, you go to your learning and growth. So when you look at these four aspects, I'll come back to them. I just want to go to then explain each one of them in detail. Your financial perspective, basically, you're looking at the voice of the shareholder. What do they want from the business? And how can we, as an organization, make sure that we deliver what the shareholder wants? Naturally, shareholders want the return on their investments, the money that they invested. And they also want it to be able to pay a dividend more frequently. In order to achieve that outward financial goal, it's more or less like a destination goal. You must make sure that you grow your revenue if you're a profit-making organization and manage your costs. So your financial perspective is more generic. Grow your revenue and manage your costs. You're likely to make money. But the key question is, in order for you to grow your revenue, surely someone must give you that money. In order for you to grow that revenue, you must have given someone some value, someone. And this person that you're going to give some value is what we call the customer. And this customer, if you look at it, especially in our current environment, if you don't generate any value for the customer, they will not give you the money. That's basically what is there. With the tight liquidity, people will not give you the money for nothing. So look after your customers in order to make money. So if you want to make money, you must look after your customers. I'm sure all of us do understand, and they probably have experienced a lot of disheartening customer experiences being given by a lot of organizations locally. And that's why some of them will never recover. That's why some of them will actually go under, simply because they have never bothered to look after their customers. So it's very important for you to be able to look after your customers. And these are the customers that actually give you the money. But in order to deliver any form of value to your customers, you must make sure that your internal business processes are functioning effectively. Your internal business process, what we are saying there is, what are the systems and the process that you use to deliver value to the customer? What are the systems and process that you use to deliver value to the shareholder? And in all those areas, you must have the right systems that are working efficiently, that are complying with it. It could be regulatory requirements, it could be in your own internal policies and procedures. So everything comes under internal business processes. If you're in manufacturing, this is where you look at your efficiencies. This is where you look at all sorts of efficiency levels within your system. In any business, there are internal business processes. There are efficiency issues. There are issues to do with turnaround. They all come under your internal business processes. And once this, for me, I think this is the core and this is the engine of the business. Once this part is not done properly, you also find that probably the scorecard is not going to deliver a lot of value to your business because you have not identified the right process that delivers value to the customer. There must be a connection between your financials, your customer, and your internal business process. Then overall, the angle of any strategy of any business is the people. Who drive the business? Okay. The people drive the business. Who drive the processes? The people drive the processes. So if these people drive the processes, you need to make sure that you've got the right people with the right competencies, motivated enough to be able for them to be able to perform. Now people talk about employee engagement. It comes under your learning and growth. People talk about innovation. It can also come under your learning and growth, or it goes under your internal business processes. So those are the key issues that you need to look at. Develop your employees so that they can perform, recruit the right people, retain the right people. Those issues then feed into your internal business process. There are companies that have got some of the best systems in the world, but as long as they don't have the right talent, nothing happens. As long as they've got the wrong people who do not have the right attitude to be able to deliver value to the customers, nothing will work. So I would take the learning and growth as the anchor of any business. I want to take you a bit back so that I can relate this scorecard to how the business functions. So if you look at these four perspectives now, you find that in order for a business to make money, the business must make sure that they deliver value to the customer. You can't make money without delivering value to the customer. Okay, in order for you to deliver value to the customer, you must make sure that your internal business process functions effectively. And who drives this process? The people. So You want to make money, you look after your customers. You want to look after your customers, you have the right systems in place that can actually give a lot of value to the customer. In order to drive these systems, you must have the right people. Okay. So that's what we look at from a really organizational point of view. But the key question that most people ask is, can the scorecard be cascaded to everyone in the organization? Yes, it can. And there's no problem in cascading the scorecard to every individual, regardless of the level within the organization. So how does it apply to a lower level staff? How does it apply to me sitting in human resources? How does it apply to me sitting in finance or marketing or in audit? This is how it applies. Your financial perspective for people who are not in the core revenue or core production side, you manage your costs. That's how you contribute financially. Okay. So if you are not in a revenue generating side of the business, you don't necessarily have to have goals on revenue. You need to have goals on the management of cost. And that's the key there. You need to manage your cost. Then, if you look at your customer side, each individual, whether it's internal customer and external customer, each position has got internal customer. If I look at HR, for example, you find that HR people have got internal customers who are the employees, who are the line managers. They also deal with other external customers who are stakeholders, key stakeholders. And they also deal directly with other company customers. So that applies. Internal business process, every position, whether it's a driver, a messenger, they all have got systems that they must comply with. The turnaround issues in terms of delivery for a messenger, all these things come under here. So it's very important for us to be able to look at that. So the key thing is, let's make sure that we develop the scorecards in order for us to be able to manage performance. So we're just fixing something quickly so that we can. So that applies. Internal business process, every position, whether it's a driver, a messenger, they all have got systems that they must comply with. Turnaround issues in terms of delivery for a messenger. Okay. All these things. Okay, thank you. So it's very important. It's fine. I was talking about the application of this model to quite a number of positions. Then we were talking about the messenger and saying, under internal business process, the messenger position applies. Internal process do apply. Then you're learning and growth. Here, if you are not a supervisor and you are not supervising anyone, you look at your own development under learning and growth. What do you require in order for you to be able to deliver value in any of those perspectives? For example, if someone has got a very poor customer service skills and they're in customer service, they can actually go for a customer service training. Or they can go for an Excel training, advanced Excel training, if they are under in finance or any other department. So that's basically how it links. So you can cascade this to all the levels within the organization. Okay, now let's go to setting the goals. The challenge in setting the goals normally is that typical goals and objectives are not measurable. And we all know that it's very difficult. It's a very contentious area where goals are designed in such a way that they cannot be measured. And the challenge is to make sure that we design a system that can address the issue of measurement of the goals. And we are going to be getting into that. The normal acronym for SMART goals, I'm sure they must be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. That still applies. And we will go through that. Let's look at some reasons why some traditional goals are not measurable. The first one is that I want to give you this scenario of a beekeeper with two sections. Section A, which is on your left, and section B on your right. And the beekeeper was supposed to come up with a performance management system in both cases. In section A, the bees were measured on the number of flowers visited. In section B, they were measured on the amount of nectar collected. Naturally, the person who is going to be the section that is going to be successful is the one on the right, where they're going to measure on the output, which is the nectar collection. Okay, because that's the key output that is required. But equate this to the same to your organization. You will discover that in your organization, you might find that a lot of people are not actually collecting nectar, but they're just visiting the flowers. So, what is likely to be the case or the effect if people are visiting flowers and not collecting the nectar? The effect is that you will find that a lot of people are busy. They're running around. Sure, they're running around in your organization, But what value are they generating? I'm sure you've even noticed there are some people in your organization where you actually wonder what one in our organization, because you don't know what they're doing, but they're very busy. And they also come to work very early and leave very late, but there is no value being generated. So as we go through this process of building the scorecards, I think this is where the problem starts in terms of how you actually set up your goals. Because if you are focusing on setting up activity goals, you fall into the same trap. Okay, you must set output-based goals so that you avoid this trap. If you look at page 5 of the workbook that we gave you, you'll find where it says how to set goals. Okay, if you can read on that, you will also see that there is a big difference between setting activity and activity-based goals and output-based goals. And it's a very easy process. There is no position in an organization where you cannot set the right goals. Okay. The other challenge is that a lot of organizations also tend to want to set goals that are focused on these big words. Okay. Why complicate things when you can actually do this thing very simply and making sure that you set the goals? Remember, goal setting is communication. There's no point in you setting the goals that are very complicated, because they must be very simple. If someone was to pick up your scorecard, they must be able to do your job, basically because of the clarity that is in your scorecard. If you find that when someone picks up your scorecard, they can't do anything about it, it means they are very complicated. You've not set the goals properly. I was reading another document some other time where someone had set a goal of, we want to build a robust company. How do you measure the robustness of a company? Why don't you be more specific? Tell us what that robust is. So if you find these goals with robust, these are very complicated scorecards and they're meant to confuse you. So one of the key components of setting the right goals and the right scorecards is to make sure that the language used is so clear that even the lowest level of employee, when they pick up the scorecard for the CEO, they must be able to find that. So how do we get the right goals? I wanted to open on page, let me see the page, on page 20, page 6, I think, page 6. Sorry, not page 6, page 6, where it says goal, on page 7. If you open on page 7, at the top, it says goal. Okay, let's see how we build the scorecard. I wanted to write there, where it says goal, the definition of a goal is actually a statement of intent. It must always start with the verb. The reason why we say a goal must start with the verb is that it's action oriented. Okay. If you start a goal with a noun, there's no action in a noun. If you start a goal with an adjective, there's no action in an adjective. So you must start all your goals with verbs. And here we're talking about active verbs. That's how you start your goal. Never start your goal with a noun. Okay, never start your goal with a noun. I will go to the actual building of the scorecard later on, but I just want to take you through this. Never start your goal with a noun, an adjective, or an adverb. Okay, the next component of any scorecard is what we call a measure. A measure is what we are going to track in order to measure our success or failure, or what we are going to track in order to measure the success or failure of our goals. Okay, so a measure, examples of measures that you find in organizations like your revenue, income, whatever measure, that's financial, your staff turnover, your EBITDA, your market share, these are all indicators. The other name for your measures is actually what I call key performance indicators. Your key performance indicators are equivalent to your measure. So you must understand what kind of things constitute a measure. A measure, let's look at some of the things that you can look at in order to assess the quality of your measures. The key thing is the measure output based. Okay. Remember, we're talking about your goals must be output based. It's the measure output based. Can you get an objective data on this measure? Okay. So the reason why we are looking at objective data is that we want to be able to assess independently and confidently assess the performance of the individual at the end of the performance period, without a lot of disagreements on whether we are talking about the same issue or not. So that's one of the key things that we need to talk about or look at. Is it objective? Is it within the control of the employee being assessed? Okay. There's no point giving someone a goal or a measure that is outside their control, because naturally they will just not work on it, because it's not going to motivate them. Do we have a means of collecting the data? I know a lot of other people, they put things that they are not, that they have no capacity measuring on their scorecard. So when it comes to time of assessment, they put non-applicable. So what is the point? The point is you must put a mechanism for collecting the data if you put anything on a scorecard. And this must be an objective system for measuring, for collecting this data. Does it matter if you fail to hit the measure or not. If the answer is doesn't matter, which means the measure is of no value. Okay, you must be able to worry if the measure goes up or down. You must be able to take action if the measure goes down or if the measure goes up. Okay, the going up or down of the measure must be telling you a story. If your measure is not telling you a story, it means you're talking about the wrong measure. So when it comes to time of assessment, for your scorecard. Then the other issue that we need to look at is, which is a bit controversial for most organizations, is the issue of targets. Okay, most people put dates as targets. That's not the correct way to put. Does it matter if you fail to hit the manage your performance? A target is the desired level of performance. If you go to page 8, you must. I think it's page 9. A target is a desired level of performance. It can never be the date. It's like asking someone to jump. The next question is how high. That's basically what you're asking. And a target, you're just asking yourself, how much of the measure do I want? Under each goal, how much of the measure do I want? Once you've got that clarification, it's easy to understand what the target is. So it's important for you to understand that. Then I need to clarify one or two things here in terms of the target. If you are going to be using your performance management system to reward people, I would suggest that you actually have two types of targets. Okay, the first one is what we call a best target. Your best target is your normal performance expected from an individual or a business. It is the minimum acceptable performance that you must have, that you must achieve. Okay, and at this level, if you were to put it bluntly, this is at a level where we actually already paying you to achieve. Okay, if you are below this target, this level, which we call the minimum threshold, it means you actually don't deserve to be in the organization, or you deserve to be helped. If you can't be helped, you deserve to go out of the organization. And a lot of people don't define this, and eventually what they end up doing is they end up paying people an incentive for what they're already paying them to do. So that's why we are recommending that if you're going to be implementing the balance scorecard, you must be able to define the baseline target and also define the stretch target. The stretch target, we are now saying, over and above the minimum, can you give me more? What is the best that you can give me in terms of this target? And any performance above the baseline deserves recognition, not just necessarily in terms of money, but recognition in terms of knowing that the person is actually giving more value to the business, more than what you're already paying them to deliver. I want to go back to where we started on the goals, and I want you to open on page 12 of your manual. Okay, I'll give you a few seconds to open that. Page 12 of your manual. When you go to that page, you want to build a simple scorecard for an organization. Okay, a simple scorecard for an organization. So if you are there on page 12, you'll find that we've got the different categories that we've already talked about. Perspective, it's called scorecard template. We've got perspective. We've got a column for goal, a column for measure, a column for best target, a column for straight target, a column for a target period. I will explain that, the target period. So let's go. If you have got your piece of paper and you've not managed to print your workbook, I'm sure you can do this on a piece of paper. But if you've got your workbook, you open to page 12 and you can write there. Let's say a profit-making business. The first goal that you might want to have is to grow revenue. So you write grow revenue. What you are trying to answer there is that under the column called goal, you are saying, what do you want to achieve under that column? What do you want to achieve? You say, I want to grow revenue. We've answered. It's action oriented. What do you want to achieve? I want to grow revenue. If I take out the word grow and say, what do you want to achieve? You can't say, I want to revenue. It doesn't make sense. Okay. That's why you're saying your goal must be action oriented. Okay. So from there we go to measure. Okay. We are now saying under measure, how are we going to track? What are we going to use to monitor progress towards accomplishing this goal? What kind of evidence do we look at in order to monitor the success of this goal? You can actually look at revenue, which revenue has got different names in different industries. In some cases it's premium, in some cases it's income, in some cases it's sales. But in this case, let's use revenue. Okay, so revenue, that's our measure. Then under best target, you can say, okay, if you want to grow your revenue in terms of percentage terms, you can then say, we want our minimum target in terms of revenue growth this year is 13%. Okay, our stretch target is 18%. Okay, then the next question is, this target that we have given ourselves is for what period? Is it a quarterly? Is it a daily? Is it a monthly? Is it a half-yearly target? In this case, we assume it's a yearly target, so we put annually in A under weight target period. Your target period basically captures the period within which the target must be achieved. That's what it does. It captures the period within which the target must be achieved. So we've got one goal there. Okay, let's go to customer. Under customer, you can have a goal there. Let's write the goal: retain profitable customers. Then the next question is this target that we've given ourselves. Let's write retain. I'm also writing here: retain profitable customers. Yeah, retain profitable customers. Okay. So under retain profitable customers, what will be our measure? The measure under retain profitable customers will be retention. So you write retention. How many of your profitable customers do you want to retain? I want to retain 99% as a minimum and 100% as a stretch. And this is an annual, it can be an annual or quarterly target. But in order to achieve any of these goals that I have mentioned here, you surely must be able to put actions or action plans to be able to achieve the targets. I will talk about the action plans at the end. Let's flip over to the next page. So under retain profitable customers. Okay. If you were to go to the next page under internal business processes, depending on the nature of your business, one of the key goals that you could have is under your internal process. You can actually increase production efficiencies. Depending on the nature of business, this varies. This will normally reflect your core business. Increase production efficiencies. Okay. In many businesses, there might be fuel usage or energy usage. Okay. Uptime time. This is uptime in terms of machinery. So you can have, remember also a goal can have more than one measure. So if you use fuel usage, you can have maybe a fuel efficiency of 80% and efficiency of 90%, and this will be probably on a daily basis, depending on the nature of the business. We already have a goal there. Okay. Then you go to your learning and growth. One of the key goals that you can have is under goal you can write retain competent staff. Uptime. Okay. Then under the column measure, you will have the goal what? Retention. This is uptime in terms of your target. Here we're talking about competent staff. We don't want to retain people who are not going to get value. So you might put, okay, 95% is our minimum and 100%, because there will be cases where you cannot do anything about the attrition, and this could be a quarterly measure. You want to be able to have a quarterly on that. So on the basis of that alone, you already started creating a scorecard clearly, and this can be applied throughout the organization, every position. But if you have to implement the scorecard internally, obviously there is more that you have to do in terms of making sure that the measures, the targets are done properly, and the goals are aligned throughout the whole organization. And before I finish this, I want to be able to highlight the process of actually building these scorecards if you are internally in the organization. The first stage would be for you to be able to say, okay, let's start with building the scorecard for the CEO. And after building the scorecard for the CEO, you cascade that same scorecard for the CEO to the next level of managers, okay, the direct reports. But what I normally recommend is when you're doing that, you must build the CEO scorecard with all the direct reports present. When you build the HR scorecard, you must also build with all the direct reports the CEO to present. Because there's no point in building an HR scorecard that is not talking to the business. And the only way to ensure that the HR scorecard is talking to the business is to involve the other colleagues who are actually beneficiaries of the scorecard. The same applies with finance. So all the direct report to the CEO, let's say we're running a balance scorecard project for the top executives for 2 days. What we will then have to say is the first day, we will look at the strategy of the business in terms of extracting the CEO scorecard from the strategy of the business. The second is maybe in the afternoon, the first day, you start building the scorecard for all the direct reports, operations, you go to finance, you go to HR until the next day, until you finish all of them. Once you have done that, you put them together and say, look, guys, is there alignment? Both horizontal alignment. That is, if it's vertical horizontal alignment, you're looking at alignment amongst your colleagues and say, okay, if I look at other departments, am I helping them? Am I assisting them achieve what they want to achieve? Are we in tandem in terms of supporting the CEO? That's the vertical alignment that we're talking about. Once that has been done, you can then have the separate teams in each organization, then build the scorecards. Let's say the HR team now, because the scorecard, the main scorecard has been done, the HR manager then goes into their own team. Say, guys, how can you help me achieve these targets? Okay, you also build the different scorecards for a team. So that's, you replicate the same process in each one of the functions. Once that process has been done, what we then do is, depending on whoever is helping you, you can then give that person to do quality check afterwards. Okay, to say, okay, we've done this scorecard. We now want you to do quality checks because we want consistency in terms of this scorecard. Then after the quality check, you then sit again with the same team together and say, guys, is there anyone who is, if you look at all these scorecards, you circulate obviously in advance, is there anyone who probably has said this, the attack is too low or the attack is too high, to such an extent that it will affect how the other scorecards are going to be delivered? Then once that alignment has been done, you can then sign between the boss and the subordinates. Once that signed, that's sealed, you can then do your, if you're doing quarterly reviews, you do your quarterly reviews. If you're going to do yearly reviews, you do yearly reviews. Okay, that's basically the process. But once your scorecard has been done, the other issue that you need to talk about is the issue of action plans. Okay, these goals will not be achieved simply because you've set smart goals. They will be achieved simply because you're acting on the ground. You're engaging in activities. Remember, we talked about the case of the visiting the flowers. In order for you to collect the nectar, you must visit the flowers. Okay, so the visiting of the flowers is the inputs, the initiatives, the plans that you're going to be able to craft in order to achieve your goals you've set on your scorecard. And one of the key things to make sure that this works very effectively is when you go into your management meetings every week, surely you must be able to talk about your scorecard. How are we doing? If you're not going to talk about the scorecard, which means your scorecard is completely divorced from your core business and from your strategy, because that's the only thing to talk about if it's been set properly. What else would you talk about in your strategy if you can't talk about the things that are on your scorecard? So that if you want to build a performance culture, you must be able to talk about your scorecard, and you must be able to talk about these action plans in your organization. The action plans will have obviously start dates and finish dates. That's basically how you build your scorecard. That's the best process of actually doing a scorecard and building a scorecard. I don't know whether there are any questions. This can be forwarded to my email if there are any questions that people might have. Otherwise, thank you very much.